Buckingham Palace or Prince William set a trap for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, and were they gullible enough to fall into it?
The walls inside Buckingham Palace are reportedly shaking again, and Meghan Markle is not smiling for Instagram today. The whispers have turned into waves, and those waves are now crashing against the golden gates of the monarchy. People say the palace corridors have gone colder, the staff quieter, and the tension so thick you could slice it with a letter opener. Meghan, once the sparkling star of royal modernity, is now said to be pacing her Montecito mansion, clutching her phone as headlines across the globe whisper one thing: the palace has reopened the files.
Harry and Meghan Markle's surrogacy scandal has entered the mainstream media domain.
For years, she thought she could outsmart the monarchy with glossy PR statements, those carefully curated photo shoots, and those tear-stained monologues that made Oprah's audience gasp. She treated royal traditions as if they were optional, something she could reshape for her own convenience, like picking an outfit for brunch in Beverly Hills. But the palace doesn't forget. It never forgets. And now, it seems, they're done pretending everything was fine.
People think her kids are fake, they think they're AI, they think they're borrowed kids, like all these sorts of things because of Meghan and Harry.
This isn't minor gossip, this isn't a tabloid headline spun out of thin air, and this definitely isn't Meghan controlling the story with metaphors and polished PR lines. This is constitutional. The monarchy isn't a Netflix drama where endings can be rewritten. It runs on law, legacy, and documents that must exist, certified and sealed. Royal lineage isn't about charm, it's about proof, bloodlines, witnesses, and records. Yet Meghan behaved as if the crown should just take her word for it because she once posed with a baby bump under the California sun.
Buckingham Palace is being pressured to remove Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet from the UK's royal line of succession until the Duchess provides absolute proof that she popped out both babies herself.
Rumors are swirling that the palace finally noticed what millions online have been whispering for years: irregular papers, strange photos, unexplained amendments, and christening records that simply don't align with royal tradition. And if this quiet review turns serious, Meghan's glittering fairy tale could crack faster than one of her brand deals. Because this time, it isn't about image or sympathy, it's about royal legitimacy. And no amount of warm lighting can rewrite a royal birth record. Something inside the palace snapped not over her speeches or her empowerment campaigns, but over what they now call institutional irregularities.
Meghan entered this world like it was a Hollywood set, assuming she could rewrite the script, center herself in every scene, and edit out anything that didn't fit her narrative.
Senior advisors reportedly noticed that Meghan recently posted another wholesome family moment: Archie running in the garden, sunlight, laughter, and that perfect glow. But for the palace, it wasn't the smiles that caught attention. It was what wasn't there: the missing confirmations, the unseen witnesses, the lack of traditional royal protocol.
And then they put out pictures of Lilibet, but it doesn't. You see her half covered,
right.
But what you all see is Meghan. So it's all about Meghan again.
One advisor allegedly noticed that certain documents were too vague, missing historic signatures, or not formatted according to royal standard. That one detail was enough to spark quiet questions. Could a royal birth registered abroad, without certified royal supervision, even qualify constitutionally for inheritance or titles? Meghan's desire for privacy, once her shield, suddenly became her biggest vulnerability. The less she allowed the monarchy to witness, the more the palace now has to verify. Someone reportedly asked, if everything was standard, why does nothing look standard on paper?
Then when the baby was born, when Archie was born, that was another, in my view, a disaster, because I knew we was not going to get a picture of it. Everybody was hoping we would get pictures.
This wasn't initiated by jealous courtiers or rival royals. According to insiders, it came from the administrative core of Buckingham Palace itself. The monarchy is defending something deeper than reputation. It's defending lineage. But when they reopened Archie's file, what they found made even the most seasoned clerks uneasy. The first thing that stood out wasn't Meghan's glamour or her media control. It was an amendment, subtle but stunning. Archie was born on May 6, 2019, and the original certificate listed Meghan's legal name, Rachel Meghan Markle, completely normal. But then, a month later, something changed. The document was altered to remove her name, replacing it with the title Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex. No explanation, no public notice, just a quiet edit that left experts confused.
I do believe because there are no delivery certificates, and I heard stories early on around the time Archie was allegedly in utero and being born. I heard stories that royal staffers were not allowed to see or touch her abdomen.
In a monarchy that has managed births with more precision than any court in the world, last-minute edits are unheard of. Birth certificates are sacred, signed, sealed, witnessed, and locked. Yet here, a change appeared without transparency. Meghan's team claimed the palace altered it without her consent, painting her as a victim. But palace whispers say the opposite, that Meghan herself requested it to look more royal. Two conflicting stories, no proof either way. Exactly the kind of mess that makes investigators raise eyebrows. And the oddities didn't stop there. For the first time in royal history, no official birth announcement was presented on the iconic golden easel outside the hospital, a centuries-old tradition meant to confirm legitimacy and medical oversight. It wasn't about showmanship, it was about record-keeping. But Archie's entry into the world skipped it all, leaving administrators uneasy. To them, it looked less like a royal birth and more like a Hollywood-managed reveal. And if Archie's documentation was strange, Lilibet's case sent the palace into panic mode. She was born on June 4, 2021, and the announcement didn't come from the palace or royal medical staff. It came straight from Harry and Meghan's PR team in California. No official UK medical witnesses, no royal midwives, no hospital documentation ever sent to the palace. Nothing. For the monarchy, that isn't just unusual, it's unacceptable. Royal births are constitutional events. They need witnesses, doctors, and records that confirm the baby's place in the royal line. But Lilibet's birth felt more like a brand launch than a constitutional event. Even Meghan's pregnancy photos raised eyebrows, different shapes, different scales, inconsistent timelines. Some said they looked staged or edited. Then, whispers turned sharper when the doctor linked to the birth quietly disappeared from public view. The palace had no witness chain, no certified verification, just press statements. And that's where things got serious, because in the monarchy, Lineage isn't a story, it's a legal document. Then came the christening scandal, the point where even the calmest clerks started panicking. The palace expected a traditional Anglican ceremony, as is required by royal law. But Meghan and Harry chose a private event in Montecito, officiated by Bishop John Taylor from the Episcopal Church, completely outside Anglican oversight. It was heartfelt, spiritual, but not legally recognized under royal tradition. No Anglican registry, no official record, no confirmation in the Church of England archives. Even palace priests admitted without documentation, it doesn't count. Inside the palace, someone reportedly said, if this were any other royal child, it would have been unthinkable. Meanwhile, online voices grew bolder. Some commentators demanded proof, even suggesting DNA tests to put rumors to rest. Just show the records, one said, and silence everyone. But Meghan didn't. For her, the ceremony was about family and love. For the crown, it was about law and succession. And then, another shock. Palace reviewers began revisiting the Sussex's family photos, the holiday cards, the portraits, the public releases. What they saw raised quiet alarm. In some pictures, Archie looked far older than his official age. In others, lighting and shadows didn't align. Lilibet's images looked inconsistent, her head and reflections mismatched. Experts called it digital compositing. Even casual observers noticed how stiff Meghan's holds looked, like the children weren't interacting naturally. These weren't just aesthetic critiques, they were potential evidence problems. Royal photos are historical records. They're meant to document lineage. If those couldn't be trusted, then the palace had no choice but to verify everything else from scratch. It's not about Meghan's motherhood, it's about constitutional clarity. If even one birth or christening lacks certified documentation, the palace risks legal disputes over titles and succession later, because unlike Hollywood, the monarchy doesn't deal in perception, it deals in proof. A senior palace source reportedly said, "We've survived scandals, divorces, and betrayals, but never ambiguity in bloodlines." And that's why the review became inevitable. If they ignored inconsistencies now, it could lead to a constitutional disaster later. For Meghan, this review isn't just another media headache, it's the one thing she can't spin away. Her and Harry's entire brand, the interviews, the deals, the documentaries, all depend on their royal status, on their children's titles. If those are ever questioned or paused pending verification, the consequences are enormous. Netflix didn't sign them for their acting. Publishers didn't buy their memoirs for writing talent. They bought royal mystique, the modern royal family in exile story, the fairy tale. But If the foundation of that story cracks, if the palace says verification required, everything collapses. Because Hollywood runs on certainty and royalty runs on proof. Investors hate uncertainty, brands hate controversy. And if the Sussex children's lineage remains under review, every business tied to that royal charm suddenly loses value. It's not just about titles, it's about millions of dollars and global influence. And for Meghan, that realization is said to have sent panic through her inner circle. She can control lighting, magazine covers, interviews, but she cannot control lineage law. She cannot charm ancient paperwork. She cannot edit a birth record. And that's where her fear lies, not in public backlash, but in institutional silence, because silence means the palace is working quietly, methodically, beyond her reach. One royal commentator said, "Just strip them of their titles. Enough is enough." And that's the sentiment echoing louder now than ever before. But the palace isn't chasing revenge. It's doing what it has always done, protecting the crown. Lineage isn't emotional, and it's not negotiable. It must be recorded, proven, and consistent with centuries of history. And no matter how many interviews Meghan gives, or how many cameras she stares into, she cannot narrate her way out of this. Because once the review begins, narrative control ends. Silence becomes the crown's weapon. And Meghan, for the first time, might be realizing that in the game between Hollywood and the monarchy, PR fades, but proof remains. Her empire was built on perception, but the crown is built on paper. And when those papers start to speak, not even the best lighting in Montecito can save her story. And here's where the gossip turns into quiet dread. Behind those palace gates, staff who once adored Harry are now whispering that this investigation could last months long, meticulous, and painfully silent. Meghan, sources claim, is furious. She never imagined the same institution she tried to modernize would turn its microscopes toward her own paperwork. The irony isn't lost on anyone. The woman who demanded her truth may now have to face the truth written in ink. Her team, insiders say, has gone into overdrive, consulting lawyers, drafting press statements, preparing just-in-case responses, but nothing works. Every time she tries to spin the story, the palace responds with silence. And silence from Buckingham Palace is scarier than any headline. It means they're moving in the shadows, quietly collecting, quietly confirming. Harry, caught between love and loyalty, is said to be restless, checking calls from the UK, arguing with advisors, pacing the hallways of Montecito. He knows what lineage means. He was born into it. And deep down, he also knows if the palace questions his children's legitimacy on record, it's not just Meghan's reputation at stake, it's the family name itself. Inside the palace, the archivists and clerks aren't gossiping, they're verifying, line by line, date by date. And somewhere, in one of those ancient offices filled with dust and silence, someone is rewriting the fate of modern royalty. Meghan built her empire on perception, but the crown thrives on permanence. And that's the unspoken tragedy of this whole saga. No matter how glamorous the photo, no matter how bright the smile, perception fades. But documents, those silent pieces of history, don't. Because when the palace speaks next, it won't be through tabloids or interviews. It will be through records. And those will decide the story Meghan can never edit again.